kill, treat your enemy as you would be treated. Islam talks of God the merciful. How would one go and kill in the name of such a religion and pretend you are defending the religion? But when that happens, what do we say, the majority, whether it's Christian or that we don't speak up? We let them get away with it. From my point of view, if there is a problem, the crux of the problem, from my point of view, is not the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, but it is the faithful and the way some of us behave. That is the crux of the problem, and sometimes they hijack religion and exploit it for their own ends, and they should not be allowed to do that.
There's some eye-opening remarks that I think a lot of us can certainly understand. Yeah. Now, what about Haiti? We've all just seen the devastating pictures coming out of there, and we hear the stories coming back to the States, and it's so difficult. How does a nation like that rebuild? I think that we all are giving all of our funds, and we're doing what we can, but they have so far to go.
Yeah. No, it's a very tragic story. Haiti has been through a lot. As Secretary General, I had to deal with Haiti. I pushed for deployment of UN troops to Haiti to help. Now we've had this huge tragedy. And I'm happy that this time round, leaders and governments are talking of helping Haiti for the longer term. This is not an issue that can be resolved in a year or two. We need to look at it in terms of a decade, if not more, and work with the Haitian people, let them be in charge in the sense that it should be their plan and program of reform that we all agree with them on and help them, so that when the time comes for the foreigners to withdraw, they can sustain it and continue it. But it's going to take lots of money, it's going to take billions, and I hope the money will be available, because we have a tendency to forget when the cameras pull away. Mm-hmm. Once the emergency is over, we tend to let the people down. But I would hope that in the case of Haiti and this time round, that the whole international community will remain engaged and work with them for the longer term. There's serious environmental degradation that has to be dealt with, lots of reconstruction, but the reconstruction that is going to take place now, I used to call it Reconstruction Plus when I was Secretary General, in the sense that it should be better construction. It should take care of the fact that they are in an earthquake zone, and build structures that will stand the test of time, not something that breaks down again. And also be careful where you place these structures. And I would hope that the international community will stand by the Haitian. And the US has a particular responsibility. It's a neighbor. It's not far from here. And I think it is important that US takes the lead and works with other governments in the region and around the world to give Haiti a better future. And I would hope there are some talented Haitians, many talented Haitians around the world, and I'm sure some will be tempted to go back home to help rebuild their nation, and I would encourage them to do it.
Mm-hmm. How about global financial crisis? We've seen world leaders come together and really try to unite to make a difference in this huge problem. Do you foresee them sticking together and really trying to work together in the future and to keep working on these humanity efforts?
It will be a surprise. If they stick together, I think they are beginning to stand apart already, in the sense that when we were living through the crisis, there was lots of excitement. Let's do something. They all came together, and it was good they did. It made a difference, and out of that also came the G20. But the moment the crisis began to subside, you saw the cracks coming up. At that point, everybody was clear that we needed reforms, we needed supervision, we needed regulation. Everyone agreed that even though markets, financial markets and others had gone global, limited regulation and supervision, as it were national. So you cannot have global markets with just national, so you have to come together and come up with some mechanism for controlling this global market. The pressure seems to be off. They are not doing it, and I hope they don't declare victory too soon and get back to the old ways. I tease some of the leaders I know who are in the G20, which I see as a transitional step to actual serious reform of the structures we use to manage the world, whether at the UN or the Security Council or the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank. I used to remind them that when it was G8 and they were outside the G8, they were not very happy about it, because I used to get invited to the G8. The G8 will meet and they would invite key leaders and throw in the Secretary General of the UN and the head of the IMF and the World Bank. So you go in the evening, you have a meeting in the morning, they give you lunch and send you home, and then they continue their work. These leaders used to complain. Now that they are part of the G20, I remind them that it's a transitional step to a real reform of global institutions like the Security Council, which reflects really the geopolitical realities of 1945. How can one have a Security Council without a permanent membership for a country like India, of over 1 billion people? Latin America doesn't have a permanent seat. Africa doesn't have one. I mean, so all these changes will have to come. But the point I'm making is, now that you put in the structure, they have to have the courage to go the next logical step and reform the universal institutions we have to reflect the needs of today, not the needs of 1945. But back to your question, are they going to have the courage to reform? I wish and pray they would, but it's going to take lots of pressure from the people, from interested stakeholders. Otherwise, they will veer off it and focus on other short-term issues.